Before we begin tonight's story, take a moment to settle in. Find a comfortable place, let your shoulders drop, and let your mind open. Because what you're about to hear is not just a tale of shadows and betrayal. It's a journey into the fragile space between truth and illusion. Imagine for a moment that the people closest to you, your family, the ones meant to protect you, turned into the very architects of your downfall. How would you recognize the truth? How would you fight back when every word, every signature, every look was designed to erase you? This is the story of Olivia Davidson, an intelligence officer who has walked through the hidden corridors of power, briefed world leaders, and dismantled threats most of us never even hear about. But the greatest danger she would ever face didn't come from foreign agents or encrypted codes. It came from the very people who shared her blood. The hum of fluorescent lights met me before I touched the door. It was faint, uneven, like flies trapped inside a jar. The hallway smelled of antiseptic, a sterile bite that clung to every clinic, every waiting room. My heels clicked on the tile floor, sharp little echoes bouncing back at me. A reminder that I was walking into something I couldn't quite name. I stopped at the door. My palm hovered over the brass knob, cool and smooth beneath my fingertips. My training whispered to me, pause, breathe, assess. Before raids in safe houses, before confrontations with hostile assets, I had stood just like this. Only this time the battlefield wasn't in a foreign city. It was here, in a place meant for healing, and the enemies weren't strangers. They were family. I drew one long, steady breath and pushed the door open. Inside, the air shifted. Conversations cut off mid-syllable. My name lingered, half-formed, fading like smoke after a flame had been smothered. At the desk sat Dr. Norman. His posture was stiff, his smile a little too taut. His eyes flicked, almost nervously, to the folder in front of him. Manila. Red letters stamped across it. Psychiatric evaluation. My mother's manicured hand rested on it like a guard claiming treasure. The emerald ring on her finger threw little green shards of light as it caught the overhead glare. "Sweetheart," she said. Her voice was syrupy, sickly sweet. A tone I had never once heard from her, not in 34 years. "We're only trying to help you." Help. The word landed like a physical blow. My chest tightened. My mouth filled with the metallic tang of adrenaline. On the desk, a prescription pad already bore my name in neat cursive. Beside it, signatures crowded the bottom of a petition for commitment. Fresh ink, fresh betrayal. Behind my mother, my brother Peter stood like a sentry, arms folded across his chest, blocking the way out. Aunt Rachel hovered nearby, her gaze fixed firmly on the floor tiles. Her silence said more than any words could. Then I saw it. The corner of paper peeking out from my own bag. The trust fund documents. My mother had slipped them into this performance as if they were props in a play. Suddenly, everything sharpened. This wasn't about my health. It was about inheritance, about control. My name is Olivia Davidson. I am 34 years old. And for 12 years, I've worked in counterintelligence, moving through shadows most people never imagine. But what happened in that office? That was the moment I learned betrayal doesn't always come from enemies across oceans. Sometimes it wears the face of your own blood. Dr. Norman cleared his throat. "Your mother tells me you've been confused," he said, his pen poised above paper. "Convinced you're employed by intelligence services?" My mother's act was flawless. Her eyes shimmered as if tears pressed at the edges. She disappears for weeks at a time. She talks in codes. Carries phones that don't even work. Says they're encrypted. She sighed, heavy with feigned sorrow. "It's delusional, doctor." Classic paranoia. Her performance was too perfect. Almost theatrical. I knew those tricks. The tremor in her voice, the carefully timed pause. I'd seen enemy informants put on the same mask under interrogation. In truth, I had been in Geneva only a month earlier, briefing the UN Security Council on the fragility of international banking systems. The chamber had smelled of oak and old paper, the air buzzing with nervous coughs as I laid out how a single cyber breach could topple economies. But that mission was locked in files no civilian would ever see. My mother's version of me, paranoid, unstable, would be easier for a stranger to believe. She won't use social media, she pressed. She claims she's monitored. She won't even let Alexa into her home. Her voice dropped conspiratorially. She owns guns. Several. She says she needs protection. Dr. Norman nodded slowly, jotting notes. I could hear the scratch of his pen against paper, each sound another nail in the coffin they were building for me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The personal line. Never used for work. One glance at the screen and my blood ran colder. Secure line compromised. Assume witch hunt protocol. Backup inbound. Stall. It was the agency's warning. They had already traced unusual chatter circling my family. The net was closing. I inhaled. Training drilled into me during my first year came rushing back. Istanbul 2012. A safe house compromised. A handler whispering, "You never panic, Davidson. You calculate." I calculated. I could wait for extraction. Or I could dismantle this plot myself. She refuses medication prescribed by Dr. Morrison, my mother added, her voice trembling with well-rehearsed sorrow. And there it was. The crack. I leaned forward. Dr. Morrison? What dosage? Which pharmacy? She faltered just for an instant. You know perfectly well. I let silence stretch until it strangled. Then I smiled. I've never met Dr. Morrison. Perhaps we should confirm his existence with the medical board. Dr. Norman's pen froze. His expression wavered. The door opened, unannounced. No knock. Just authority cutting straight through. A woman entered. Tall, poised, silver hair pulled back into a severe knot. Her suit fit like it had been cut with a scalpel. She moved with precision that screamed military training. I apologize for the intrusion, she said, her voice cool, controlled. I'm here for Senior Analyst Davidson. My mother barked a laugh. Oh, this is pathetic. She hired someone to play along with her fantasies. The woman reached into her jacket. Peter shifted uneasily. She produced a leather case, flipped it open on the desk. Dr. Norman leaned forward. His face drained of all color. His mouth opened, then shut again. Deputy Director Margaret Lorton, the woman said. National Security Agency. Doctor, you are minutes away from committing yourself to a conspiracy against a federal intelligence officer, built on fabricated evidence. The silence was suffocating. Even the fluorescent hum seemed to vanish. I rose slowly, collecting my bag. My mother's mask crumbled, fear bleeding into her features. Olivia, please, she begged. I was only worried about you. No, I said evenly. You were worried about Grandma's trust fund. When I refused to pay your debts, you tried to erase me. Deputy Director Lorton's voice sliced in. Forged medical files, false testimony. That isn't worry, Mrs. Davidson. That's a federal crime. As we turned to leave, my mother lunged. Her nails dug into my sleeve. I'm your mother, she hissed, voice cracking. I pulled free. You stopped being my mother the day you tried to bury me alive in lies. Outside, the night air wrapped around me, cool and sharp. A black SUV waited. 2 agents stood by the curb, scanning the street with practiced eyes. As I slid inside, I glanced back through the clinic window. My mother's face was twisted, almost unrecognizable with rage. Peter was pale, frozen, like a statue whose cracks had finally shown. Aunt Rachel clutched her purse and fled without a word. Hours later, I was at Fort Meade. The operations center glowed with the blue light of monitors. Rows of analysts worked in silence, fingers flying across keyboards. The smell of burnt coffee and metal filled the air. On the screens before us, hostile code unraveled in real time. A cyber strike on the Federal Reserve, dismantled line by line. "Excellent work, Davidson," came the director's voice over secure comms. "Your intercept bought us the window we needed." I stared at the cascading green code. "Just doing my job, sir." And I thought of my grandmother. Her hands, always smelling faintly of lavender and flower, resting on mine as she taught me to sew when I was 6. She had been the only one who believed in me when I first enlisted. The trust fund she left me wasn't just money. It was freedom. A lifeline she had meant for me, not for the debts of others. As for my mother, fraud charges moved fast. She would have years behind bars to reflect on her schemes. Peter retreated deeper into online rants, his audience shrinking with every furious post. Aunt Rachel, timid and contrite, eventually called, her apology fragile. I allowed her back in pieces, but never fully, and me? I returned to the shadows. My family had called me paranoid, delusional. But delusions don't decrypt enemy chatter. Delusions don't brief presidents. Delusions don't prevent wars. I was exactly who I said I was. And while the world slept, even those who had tried to destroy me, I remained awake, watchful, guarding the country. Guarding the truth. Guarding still even them. And as you close your eyes tonight, remember this. Sometimes the greatest battles are not fought in deserts or foreign capitals, but in the quiet rooms where trust is broken. Sometimes the strongest armor is not steel or Kevlar, but the unshakable knowledge of who you are. And like Olivia, we all carry a truth worth protecting, no matter who dares to erase it.